Hi, I'm Sovattha. I've been working in development sector in Cambodia with various multi-sector organizations. I joined Watershed in beginning of 2018 as the third executive director of Watershed and to implement the exit strategy of Watershed by 2020, which made me very proud.
Hi, I'm Geoff. I started Watershed as an organization about 10 years ago, and I now work as an advisor alongside Sovattha and the team. I came into this after working in the wash sector for some years at the World Bank, and then wanting to work a bit closer to the ground, experimenting with market-based approaches in Southeast Asia.
Yeah, some background of Watershed. In 2009, only 2 in 10 rural Cambodians had access to a toilet. Watershed helped jumpstart the rural market with a range of interventions. All this so that organizations, including us, could get out of the way. Rural sanitation in Cambodia is now a unique success story. Today, more than 70% of rural households have access to a toilet. Having shown that market can deliver, we then focus on equipping the government to take lead going forward as we exit the sector. How do we do that? We design all activity, indeed, the whole organization, with an exit mindset from the beginning. Phase 1 included formative research for market development in WAS, and we designed and piloted a market-based sanitation program. Phase 2 took our so-called hands-off market building model to scale across 8 provinces, building a market that serves 40% of total population in Cambodia. It included a leadership training program for local government officials, which was a critical piece of our exit strategy. Phase 3, where we are now, is called the sustainability phase, where we ensure government ownership of key roles in market facilitation, market stakeholder coordination, and data collection, and also monitoring. We're also working hard to institutionalize key elements of the government leadership program called Civic Champions within the Ministry of Interior, with help from another ministry, Ministry of Rural Development. This is key, not just scaling, but institutionalizing.
One of the key things for strengthening the sanitation market was something we call the Civic Champions program. And what we noticed is that as the rural toilet market was starting to advance after phase 1 that Sovattha mentioned, with Watershed actively making connections between market participants, there was still an issue about local toilet makers being relatively passive in terms of sales and demand generation. Sustained generation of demand is needed, but we wanted to see if there was a way it could be done not as an NGO project with NGOs or foreign funded NGOs. We saw that local government leaders who stepped up to do their job advocating for local toilet adoption, really at the community level, pushing households for 100% sanitation, could do this demand generation work really effectively. It was part of their mandate. But it was unequal. Some were very good and some didn't take up that challenge. The Civic Champions program aimed to intentionally cultivate that kind of leadership behavior. So it turns out that it's actually a very effective and very powerful way of engaging local leaders. But importantly, it's also sustainable because it allows Watershed to remove ourselves from what's becoming an increasingly self-sustaining market. Proactive, responsive government, no question in my mind, it dramatically improves sanitation. We've tracked and monitored that as well. So when we think about strengthening system actors, I think we need to emphasize the importance of government actors, local government actors, and indeed making it become a pillar of WASH programming, like almost an established intervention modality, like CLTS or market building or behavior change campaigns. And kind of as a bonus, because it's not inherently specific for sanitation or WASH, it actually helps lay the foundation for broad, sustainable community development in other sectors. Yeah, the Civic Champions program has had to be adapted a little bit due to COVID-19, even though Cambodia so far has been relatively, had a low infection rate, but a lot of the work is done in in-person group meetings and trainings. So Watershed and the government really had to decide to delay the program activities a little bit. And now that they've restarted since July, they take place with smaller groups and other precautions to make it less risky. It's a great reminder about how important it is to invest in system strengthening at all, because part of the concept of strengthening a system is about making it more resilient and self-sustaining, and it can withstand shocks, unforeseen circumstances. Now, today that's COVID, but in the future it could be drought or something else. And fundamentally, INGOs just can't be everywhere delivering services. During COVID-19, in Cambodia, a lot of foreign staff had to leave the country, and then NGO staff weren't able to travel for a significant period through the countryside either. That leaves only local actors, and especially local government leaders, who are on the ground to manage the crisis.
Well, the key word here is institutionalization. It's embedding the system strengthening activity within the system. It sounds a bit theoretical, but practically speaking, the long-term goal is that we're completely obsolete as an organization. At first, the government was sad to hear that we're shutting Watershed down, but then they understand why. And that is because of their own success, they are feeling proud. Watershed Civic Champion program has now trained over 1,000 commune counselors in public speaking, planning, and strategic thinking skill. But there are still 10,000 commune counselors across Cambodia. There must be a way to train the remaining 10,000 without reliance on foreign funding and staff. And what about all the new ones that come with turnover and growth? It's really exciting that we are working toward a major milestone for sustainability, that the national government own this leadership development program because, of course, they are integral to the system and are much more powerful system actor than we are, as they should be. In terms of process, we identify the key government stakeholders who share the same vision in building resilient and stronger system, and who could potentially replicate the system, the program especially. We therefore support them to be able to step-by-step lead the planning and implementation of the Civic Champion and work together to find a way for a subnational government to run the whole things with little support from a foreign funded entity. We are working with Ministry of Interior, which has the mandate to build the capacity of their subnational government to implement the function transfer from national level, linking the Civic Champion program with their key objective and showing how the behavior that are cultivated by the program. And we are working with the Ministry of Rural Development, who have technical expertise in rural sanitation. So collaboration between ministry isn't always natural or easy. So a job for system strengthening organization may be to broker that communication and collaboration, but it can make the outcome more effective and sustainable.
Because Watershed is actually a local NGO headquartered here in Cambodia, exiting really means the end of Watershed as an organization. And it represents the end of a long kind of arc since 2009 through the various phases Sovattha mentioned. And one of the things to come to this closing point that we've really tried to do proactively is communicate that long in advance, which helps actually the partners we work with understand what we're doing and why the responsibilities have to shift. We're also really trying to make sure that among our own team, who are all going to go and do different things next, that we see this not as a sad juncture, but as an achievement, a milestone that we should be proud of, that we've been working towards. And I'm very excited. I think our whole team is going to have exciting opportunities in the future ahead.
I also like to add a bit to what Geoff mentioned, what happened next to Watershed after we left. To us, our Watershed team, we also use this information as part of our advocacy method to really keep the government stakeholder be prepared when Watershed is already gone. What are they going to do with the existing program, whether they like it or not, and whether they want to continue it. So that kind of thing make our team giving us more energy to do more. And we love that kind of feeling. And we love to be in the moment to really close down this organization and experience such moment. So to us, it's a proud moment. So in short, we hope to see all Agenda for Change member on 2nd of September